So welcome to the webinar. My name's Stuart Easton, and I'm the CEO and one of the founders of Transparent Choice. And those of you who know us, and there's quite a few names on the attendee list here who are sort of regular attendees on these events. Those of you who know us will probably know us as the project prioritization company. But this year we've launched a whole bunch of really exciting new AI-based capabilities in sort of the broader portfolio management area. So, portfolio optimization and capacity planning, which is why we're here. So we're not here to talk about the product. If you want to see the product, there'll be a demo in a couple of weeks, and you'd be very welcome to sign up for that. What we're going to do today is we're going to go to two very good friends of mine who also happen to be really experienced PMO leaders. So we have Edita and Joe. I'm going to let them introduce themselves in a second. But suffice it to say that I first met Edita out in Riyadh at the PMI's Global Project Management Forum out there. And then she very kindly organized me to a little event she was running in Vilnius in Lithuania last September, I think it was, Edita, right? And I was completely blown away, right? So this event was fantastic. There were loads of people there, so really good content. It's called the Bridge Conference. You can see Bridge right behind Edita there. It's called the Bridge Conference, and there were some really great speakers. There was a lot of energy in the room and some really innovative ideas. Like, at the end of the conference, instead of everybody just wandering off, the editor and the team had organized some site visits. So you could actually go and visit people who'd wrestled with issues similar to yours. And you're doing it again this year, Edita, right?
Yes, and nevertheless, we also have a great panel of speakers and site visits. But this year, we also offer unique experience in cinema. So our event will be in cinema area, and you will be able to experience full sound, full screen and everything what you can get out of there. And this year conference is for 2 days. The second day we also dedicate for practice, hands-on practice. We will have 2 outstanding master classes, so a lot of opportunities for people who joins us on site. So this is hybrid event. You can watch it online, but for sure come and visit our beautiful Lithuania.
And it is beautiful. I have to say, I fell in love with the place. Some of the speakers, I'm going to do a little flag wave for one of the workshops on the second day, where we're going to be looking at AI in and around the PMO and project management. And we're flying in a couple of, it really is. I know it's kind of based in Northern Europe. And most of the attendees come from Northern Europe, but the speakers are coming in from Australia, from Dubai, all over the place.
From Portugal, from UK, from Germany. We already can count many countries. So we're really proud that it's international. It's growing thanks to all of the community, because our purpose every year is to connect these different service providers, certification providers, with public-private companies, and to get out the best out of it, to level up our professions and to mature project management and PMO.
Fantastic. And our other guest today, no music today, Joe, I'm afraid.
That's okay. We may get a ghost sighting, so that may be even more exciting.
Absolutely. So our other guest today is Joe Pusz. You may know him as PMO Joe. Joe is, I'll let you introduce yourself, Joe, but I first became aware of Joe from his PM After Hours, Office After Hours podcast, which you've had how many downloads, Joe? It's like 10 million or 100 million or 13 billion or something.
We stopped counting at 40 million, so I don't know where we're at these days, but yeah.
So that puts Joe into the superstar territory. So editor, next year it's not going to have to be a cinema so that Joe could be on stage if he comes. It's going to have to be a cinema because he'll be up on the silver screen because he's that
Oh,
biggest star.
hey, I'd
The
want to
red
go because
carpet for sure.
my family heritage is a border town in Poland and Lithuania. So I want to go just to go visit the area of my family's origin.
There you
Okay.
go. There you go. It's beautiful. There you see, just made a little match. I think next year we
Perspective, yeah,
found
looking
your keynote
forward.
speaker editor. Excellent. So, Joe, did you want to do any more of an intro than that? A little bit about PMO Squad, perhaps, so people understand the experience that you've got.
And obviously, I'm at the attendee list, and I think most of the folks know me. But PMO Squad, great, exciting news that came out this week. We were in the top 23% of the fastest growing companies in the United States this year. So what we're doing, people are listening and they're coming to us for our services. So it'd be great to be able to share that with all of you. Also, founder of the PMO Leader global community, as we're talking about conferences in October on the 23rd will be our 4th annual conference. It's a follow the sun format, 20 plus hours live consecutively starting in Australia and working our way across the world. French, Spanish, Portuguese, English, multiple languages. An amazing conference that it's all virtual and would recommend everybody go out that free to register and attend. So
that's the
Bridge
PMO Leader.
Conference and also the PMO Leader Conference, 2 great opportunities.
And by the way, just sorry for jumping in, but by the way, our conference, it will be also 4th edition. So we have, we are counting the same.
Some more coming.
Excellent. Excellent.
Rachel has kindly put the link to the registration in the chat for everyone.
Well done, Rachel. So and I can vouch for the fact that some of the PMO Leader event will be in English because I'll be giving it. I'll be one of the speakers. But as for the stuff that's done in the US, who knows what language they all speak? It's certainly not English as far as I'm concerned. But anyway, let's jump in. So what I would love to do, folks, is make this session as sort of interactive as you can. You can tell that the 3 of us, we all know each other. We're good friends. We're nice and relaxed. We're going to have some fun with this. And I think we'll all get more out of it if you also contribute to the session, right? So do jump into that chat and share either horror stories, questions, observations, things that you've struggled with. And we'll try and weave that into the conversation. We do have a little bit of an agenda laid out. So if you're all kind of shell-shocked and not typing anything, we'll still fill the time. But it'll be much more fun if you guys contribute, comment. If there's something that you hear that you think really resonates with you, jump into the chat and go, yay, or whatever it may be, right? Okay, so the challenge has been issued. Let's jump in. We're here to talk today about capacity planning. So I'm going to kick off with a really, really simple question. What is capacity planning? Because I think people sometimes get a little confused around this. So editor, from your perspective, what is capacity planning?
Yeah, when I think about capacity planning, it's always for me like a more forward-looking approach of planning. And it's not only about people, resources, but of course, usually we start from there. It's our precious assets and people, technologies, and finance. And of course, it needs to be in alignment with organizational goals. So when everything goes together, when we start early to plan those things, it could lead to better organizational outcomes, to better project deliveries. So yeah, first we need to think strategically in order to implement the right thing. So a lot of capacity, a lot of forecasting and other techniques need to be involved in order to make it work right. Because if we start only with, what people are assigned to which tasks, it's not enough, because always, if we have a plan, we need to think how much we can invest, for example, to technology. If we choose the right technology, we can remove some part of manual work and let people to focus on other tasks, or just simply to take off their overload, which is happening in organizations. And I really liked, your example, Stuart, in some video, I guess, when you compared capacity utilization with traffic jam. And you know what happens when it's 100 capacity, right? And do people feel happy? Does Phil road happy? We know what happens, right? So we need to make everything early, thinking about few steps ahead in order to make it right. In short.
Brilliant. So it's about looking ahead and coming up with matching the strategy and the capacity and our ability to deliver and trying to meld all of those together. And Joe, how's that different to sort of resource management? Because they're kind of related, but they're not the same, right?
Yeah. I take what Edita had said and add to that. It's how do we remove the chaos, right, from the delivery of work by utilizing the resources we have at hand. And again, those resources, as she mentioned, could be people, that could be financial, it could be others, right? Resource management is when you're in it, or you're not planning for what's coming, you're actively in a project and you're trying to get resources to come work on it. So you didn't do any planning in advance to say how many, maybe not of the people you need, but the role we need. How many business analysts will we need for this work? How many project leaders will we need? How many SMEs will we need? When you get to the resource management component, you take that role and you shift it to an actual resource name, right? So if you wait to the resource assignment to see if you have people available, you've got chaos. If you do the capacity planning up front, you're now as an organization becoming collectively aligned on what to work on, because we understand what type of people we need, what type of funding we need, what type of technology we'll need. And if you don't do that work until you've started, you've got chaos.
And I mean, that leads into the next sort of idea, or the next question, Joe, really is, so what are the benefits of doing capacity planning? And you sort of hinted at some of them there, right? So for those of you who don't know Joe, and I think, was it the last webinar we did together? It was the one we did back in January, where I put together a little musical tribute to Joe, which included a photo of Joe with a much smaller beard, I have to say, at the time, much younger Joe,
yes.
Smaller beard.
The wisdom has brought more hair. Yes.
Yeah, well, it's just moved, right? Because it was up here.
At one point, a long time ago.
And so that chaos of capacity planning, lack of capacity planning, may have contributed to the shift of hair on Joe's head there. But joking aside, right? So part of it is about controlling the chaos. What are some of the other benefits of good capacity planning?
Yeah, I think the organization collectively moves together, right? It adds to employee morale and employee satisfaction, because people aren't feeling overwhelmed because they're being pulled into a work to serve as a hero on a project because they need to get something over the finish line that wasn't planned appropriately up front. And now they have to work overtime and extra hours to be able to get that done. So that sinks. In addition to that, your reputation within the industry may suffer because you can't deliver the way that you intended to. So if you're a public company, out to your stockholders and shareholders, you may had to release some results about projects being delayed, and that never hurts that always hurts an organization's stock price. Also within you may not have the appropriate funding approved. So budgets may not be where they need to be for the year. And because of that, the project may not be able to get the resources they need. It's the organization historically, as we've all seen in our industry. We haven't yet had the magic elixir for every company to come together and deliver projects the way they need to, much like they do on the operations side. Operations, they have things figured out. They have a cadence, they have a rhythm for how they do their budgeting, how they do their delivery. When we don't do proper capacity planning, we don't understand the future-based needs for delivery work. So therefore, we constantly have this black eye of not being able to deliver, being rushed, not having funding done, don't have enough resources in place. So all of those things are always pulling us down. When we do a better job upfront with the capacity planning, those things can lift us up. So all of the benefits are tied to our ability to show we understand what we're trying to do when we deliver projects, just like the operations team understands what they need to do and they deliver on the repeatable, consistent work that they perform. So for me, the benefit is just the collective, we get it. We control and understand what we're trying to deliver for the company.
Brilliant.
And I think, Stuart, I could also add to what Joe said, from looking from executive level perspective, from organizational perspective. For me, it brings transparency as well and helps to make better decisions, because if we know how much we need, right, and this chaos is control, it's better to see which is our first priority project and dedicate teams appropriately and things like that. So I think transparency is also an important thing, which is a part of satisfaction of employees and our users as well.
And one of the key things is that there's and often people miss this, right? It's sort of obvious, and if you think about it for a second, everybody knows this, but sometimes they forget, right? So if you're not doing capacity planning, you've got this chaos, and that means that people are being pulled in 5 different directions at once. Okay, how effective are you? Here's the question. I do expect answers, please. Everybody get your fingers ready on the keyboards, right? Do you feel when you've got 5 things you're trying to do all at the same time, are you more effective or less effective? More efficient or less efficient? Let's see what people say. So does multitasking, yeah, less, a little bit less or a lot? There we go. I think we've got a consensus here, right? Who said that? Hang on, where is it? Laura, I love that. No such thing as multitasking. You are correct, actually. You are absolutely correct. So what the psychology research tells us is that there is no such thing as multitasking. What we actually do is we task switch. We jump from one task to the next, to the next, to the next, and back to the first one. And when you're doing that in a complex setting like managing projects, you lose up to 40%, 40% of your capacity just because you didn't have a plan. Jeepers, this is terrifying, folks, right? So this is not about, oh, let's all feel nice and have a plan. This is not about there's a capability model or a maturity model somewhere that says we have to do it. Let's put a check in the box. It's not about that, guys. It's about, first of all, helping your people, protecting your people, right? Because people generally do not enjoy task hopping, right? That task switching environment, having too much work on, right? So people don't enjoy it. So that's the first reason to do it. I think the second one is about this productivity. If you can stop this task switching going on, you can get that 40% capacity back. Guess what you can do with 40% more capacity? More projects. Yay! Right? That's great. Good news. So it's about that. It's absolutely about decision making and transparency so that your executives actually understand what the plan is. Right? So Editor, have you ever had the situation where the big boss has come in and said, do my project now? That never happens, right?
Yeah, never happens. Never yet. But in fact, it's a daily life of every project manager, I guess, or PMO as well.
And do they ever say, do this now, do this project now,
No, they say
but feel free to stop other things, right? They don't say that, do they?
Usually they say it needs to be done yesterday.
Right. So if you don't have good capacity planning, you can't respond to that, right? That's not the executive's fault. They just don't understand the impact of what they've just done. So if you have a good capacity plan, you can actually reflect that back to them so that they can, and I pointed that one at you, Edita, because you mentioned decision making, right? So it's about, if you give them the information, show them the consequences of what they're asking you to do, then they can actually make better decisions.
And if you have data to show it, data accuracy is as well very important, right? If you show on how many projects you are working and it's all crystal clear, there is no such question, do another project, right? But yeah, you need to have good facts to prove this.
So Joe,
can I give an example of how we're involved in this? We had an IT department in the healthcare industry that had a $500 million budget, and 200 million of that was allocated to operations, and 300 million was to a project portfolio. And we had to submit this to the board of directors for approval. The expectation that we had was the board would not approve all of that $500 million. Some of that money would be rejected. But we had a plan as if it all would have been approved. And what would we do if they actually approved all $300 million? In order for the approval to take place, we had to show them we understood how to utilize the investment they were going to give to us. And $300 million for a healthcare system, which is a nonprofit organization, is a tremendous investment. We went through all of the projects in the portfolio and understood what technology we would need, how many of the different roles we would need, the funding on that project, the duration, because most of them were multi-year engagements. And we put forward this entire plan to the board of directors, and they approved every project. They said that you had never come to request funding from them before as organized as they were, and they could understand what the future looked like because of that planning that we had put in place. When executives and leaders and people who approve funding can see what you're going to do with their investment dollars, they're willing to give you the money. They've been burned so much in the past by failed projects that they're hesitant to do that, right? So now giving them an opportunity to get a glimpse into the future, the capacity planning allows for that to happen. That's a real world example that we were able to utilize and put into practice that then the project delivery team could go execute against. But had they not done the upfront planning, they never would have got the funding required to go get that work done. And the executive still would have asked them to do all the projects, right? Even if the funding wasn't there, figure out a way to go get it done. So instead of figuring out while you're in the thick of it, be proactive to do it up front to be able to put it forward so you're organized and can show a path to executives.
Brilliant. Joe, thank you for that. Aruna has asked about what tools there are available. We'll probably touch on that in a little while. We'll come back to that and I want to be careful I don't wave our flag too much because, of course, my answer is transparent choice, right? So come check that out. But we'll come back to that one later on, Aruna. So I'm going to park that just for a moment. What I want to do now is just ask the audience for a second to rank your own ability to do capacity planning, right? So scale of 0 to 5. 5 being what Joe just described, right? You're absolutely on top of it. You've got a plan. You understand the resource requirements. The executives are looking at the plan and taking the time to understand it, right? So that's a 5. 0 is we have no idea, right? Projects just arrive and we say what resources, right? That's a 0. So just I shock. Hey, great to see you, man. I didn't see you come in. Fantastic. Okay, so we're getting some 3.5s, lots of 2s going on. Just jump on in, just give us an idea. Yeah, so there's 1 or 2 people who are feeling reasonably solid. Most people are kind of in the lower echelons on our made-up scale here. So this is a good place, actually, Joe. I wanted to come and ask you a little bit about this capacity planning thing, and it doesn't just stand on its own, right? It's part of a process, and it's something. It's an organizational event, if you like, or a process.
Yeah.
So talk to us a little bit about, where does it fit in the whole context of planning through to execution, and who needs to be involved? We'll come back to how to get them involved later on, but who needs to be involved?
Yeah, for me, it's the entire organization needs to be involved, right? Again, we don't deliver projects in a silo. We're delivering organizational projects, but we often view an inward-looking perspective to the PMO and think there are PMO projects. Well, they're not our projects. We're just delivering organizational initiatives. So really, we need to involve everybody. It's great to see these rankings here because it makes me think of OPD, right? The organizational project delivery journey that we have. And a lot of the 2s and 3s in here are showing that on the OPD journey, they probably haven't reached organizational capability yet to really do capacity planning at an organizational level, because the organization hasn't accepted that we do this at an organizational level.
Just take 30 seconds and explain OPD to those who haven't heard about it, Joe, for a second. I know what you're talking about, but there'll be some people out there who don't.
Yeah, OPD is a way to measure an organization's capability to deliver projects.
Okay, so it's not something we need penicillin for then.
No.
Okay, that's good. That's good news.
You might afterwards, but who knows? But the contrast is a lot of PMO maturity models. How mature is our PMO? The challenge with that is you may have a very mature resource management process in the PMO, but the organization doesn't follow it. So does it really matter how mature your PMO is? Your organization isn't capable. So we built OPD to be able to show how capable is your organization to deliver projects, ranging from ad hoc at the lowest level all the way up to where your organization uses project delivery to generate value in its industry. So it's a continuum for an organization to be able to develop on that way. So when I see people saying 2 to 3 from a capacity planning perspective, to me, that means they're early on. They're probably in stage 2 where they've standardized the project work. How do we deliver projects? We've standardized that. How do we have a portfolio? We've standardized that. But the organization hasn't accepted those standards yet. And if they haven't, we can't do capacity planning across the organization, because I still have resource managers and financial managers who haven't bought into what we're doing. So trying to do capacity planning without them is going to fail. You have to have everybody involved in capacity planning because it's an organization, it's an enterprise-wide event.
And it sounds like Dora would 100% kind of recognize that situation, Joe, because she's saying that's the big challenge is the leadership. She's in a university setting. The leadership doesn't really have an understanding of what project management is, never mind portfolio management and capacity planning, right?
That's right.
And so
if you don't have capability, you can't get there.
So OPD is almost like a framework that you can use to kind of help you take that journey.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously you can go out to the PMO Squad YouTube channel and watch our videos on that, or out to the website, or reach out to me on LinkedIn, or send me an email, and certainly talk to you some more about that.
Fantastic. Now, Edita, when we were doing the prep, you told an interesting story about a case study. It's something you lived through, right? So with taking your bridge hat off for a second and putting your Bentley Systems hat on, I think it was. So tell us a little bit about that, because that was a really interesting story and it might bring some of this alive.
Yeah, I chose one initiative we had at Bentley a year ago, which was called Support Experience Refresh. And I thought I could use this example as a good capacity planning example. Not that capacity planning was good, but good example to illustrate this forward-looking approach. Because first of all, we already had support from our Chief of Product Officer And the problem was clear. Our users are not happy with our support function. So what is support? I work for engineering software company, and support might be, some software doesn't work, right? Something is crashing and we get tickets, just to imagine the whole situation. So we saw all the customer satisfaction surveys, and it wasn't good. And our end goal and forward-looking approach was to add more technical perspective to it, to automate as much as possible. But until we reached the final destination, it required very baby steps, because we started this project at a chaos, as Joe said. I was in a group with 10 or 15 support managers from different parts of the world, and everyone was telling me that we have resource problems, and we need to hire more people if we want to improve our response time, which is answering to the ticket, and resolution time, which is fixing the issue itself, because those two criteria were our key measures in the very beginning. So what we did, actually, I was happy because we followed such like a fusion team approach, which means we merge cross-collaborative teams together with different digital talents, with different subject matter expertise in order to deliver the best results. So even myself, I wasn't leading the project alone. I was sharing the leadership with customer success manager, which is personally involved in all the surveys and personally interested in the success of this, and also product experts who knows all our product lines and all the issues that might happen in development levels. So three of us, we thought how to create the best framework, and out of our brainstorming, we figured out that first we need to find the root cause. Maybe it's not the people. Maybe it's something else, and the resource issue might not be the root cause. Capacity planning might be the issue. So what we did, actually, we asked every support manager to work with their teams and to identify in each product line what is holding us to better respond, for example, to the ticket. So, and this analysis simply showed that, for example, when support people are dedicated in multiple countries, they have different mindset, different understanding of the priorities. Simply, our problem was to convince them that critical tickets should go first, because the number of how many tickets you fix doesn't mean that you did a very good job. If you fix critical complex issue first, it doesn't mean that you need to numbers of them. Not the number of tickets matters, but complexity matters, things like that. So it requires a lot of change management, explanation, documentation, what is it, and coming up on the united governance, going back to more centralized world, I would say, when we know when we use the same terminology, when we use the same teamwork, we split our team to different work streams to focus on the targets every month, and we were monitoring closely, how much we improve. And in the end of the pilot project, after talking to the people, training them on change management, we improved our response and resolution time by 85%. So it was a really successful pilot project. Moreover, I was happy to see the evaluation of those, because eventually we hired more people because, low-hanging fruits were to improve response and resolution time. But when we come up with more difficult issues, with technical issues, we figured out that we need to change system, that we need to add proper tools. And eventually, it grow up to, I would say, improvement every day, continuous improvement, and not a single project, but the whole company is briefing, because finally we have buy-in from all the groups, so they understand the importance of this initiative.
So a couple of really key things out of that. One was, you'll notice Edita didn't say we finished that project on time and on budget. What Edita said was we improved ticket handling by 85% or the volume by 85% or something, right? So number one, right, and this isn't just about capacity planning, right? Projects are not about the triple constraint of on time, on budget, on scope. It's about delivering business value. So I really love that. Thank you, Edita, for talking about the business impact of what you did. It's the only reason we do projects, folks, is to deliver that business impact. The second thing that jumped out at me from that little case study is that capacity planning isn't something that is just a point in time. It's part of a whole process that started with there were ideas about prioritization in there. There were ideas about resource management, right? And actually the resource management problems were being caused by capacity planning failures, right? So if you're sitting there thinking, ouch, this hurts, it's chaos, right? And we've got a resource management problem. Just take a step back and ask yourself, do we have a resource management problem, or do we have a capacity planning problem? Are we just letting too many projects through? We're not prioritizing properly, and we're not scheduling the projects in a way that gives our people a chance to actually deliver them, right? That's not about resource management. That's about planning. That's about the resource capacity planning. So it's all about a process, and it's all about delivering that business result at the end of it. And you can't, Joe, part of your OPD thing is that you can't really tease these things apart and treat them as separate things. It's sort of one process, right?
Yeah, it's all connected, right? We all function within an organization, and we don't have silos or bound processes of project delivery that are independent from other siloed processes, right? Resource management is impacted by how well we do capacity planning. Capacity planning impacts budgeting process. Budgeting process impacts our ability to do change management. They're all connected, but we treat them as if they're standalone items. And if I go fix resource management, everything will be solved. Wrong. If you haven't fixed capacity planning, you're going to get to resource management, you're going to have the same issue still. So that's why we take an organizational view, right? As opposed to a PMO project-based view, which historically our industry has been doing for 50 years. We look inward and try to improve ourselves. We haven't fixed the organization. When we go out and do PMO discovery work for our clients, typically we find about between 10 and 15 items for them to improve to deliver projects better. And we're doing that in the PMO, but the findings of those 10 to 15, 75 to 80% of them are organizational findings, not PMO findings. The organization needs to do. The organization needs to do, not the PMO needs to do. If we don't have an organizational view on fixing project problems that the organization isn't going to accept, we have to be able to understand these are all connected. They're all rooted into the organizational fabric and culture. And if we don't change that, we're going to continue to suffer, even though we're doing our best to improve the project pieces that we own. That, right? Example for everyone. When we work within the finance industry, if you're going to send out an invoice to a vendor, the entire organization knows that goes from the finance or accounting department. right? I can't send that from the end. It has to go out of that. So the organization has accepted that way of working. If we don't do that in project delivery, where the entire organization accepts our way of project delivery, we're going to fail. And we know, how do we know that? Because failing, right? Our project delivery success rates are way too low. So we have to take a different change to this. And the best place to look is what's working in the organizations where we work. And operations works a lot better than project delivery. So let's observe, let's understand how they have success, and then try to replicate in the project delivery world. It has to be an organizational approach.
Fantastic. And I'm actually going to come back to the question about tools, because we've taken, you know, Joe and Edita and others are a constant inspiration to us as we develop our software. So thank you to you guys for leading the way. And sort of inspired by some of this stuff, we've taken our project prioritization software that we've been doing for years. And the important thing about prioritization, actually, yeah, of course, you reduce waste and everything else, which is what everybody thinks about, you know, get strategic alignment, blah, blah, blah. But the really huge value in prioritization is what you then do with it, right? So it's taking that prioritization forward into the capacity planning, because that's when the portfolio becomes real. That's when you bake in success or failure at that capacity planning step. And so you can only do capacity planning if good capacity planning if you have good solid prioritization, because otherwise you don't know which projects to prioritize in your plan. And so what we've done is we've built some AI that sits on top of the prioritization tools that will run thousands of scenarios. The AI will guide simulations, and it will actually suggest portfolio based on your resource assumptions. It'll suggest a portfolio that maximizes the value that you could deliver as an organization. And then you can run scenarios off of that, because that's the hard part in capacity planning, is running the scenarios, right? You can kind of come up with a plan. The question is, have you come up with a good plan? And you don't know until you've tried a few scenarios, right? So I was telling the guys in the green room, actually, yesterday we were doing a demo to a bank, and there was something like 46 projects in this little portfolio, and we were going to try and schedule them. And so I asked the PMO, how long would it take you to come up with a plan, a capacity plan, a project roadmap that had balanced resource utilization? And he started telling me about, you know, how long it would take. You know, it'd take him half a day, something like that, and the steps he'd have to go through. And by the time he'd finished saying that, it took him maybe 10 seconds to answer. The software had simulated over 180,000 permutations of the roadmap, and had come up and said, "Ta-da! Here's the best one," right? And so you know, capacity planning in the past has been a really, really difficult, slow process. And you know, the new technologies, and transparent choice is just one of them, right? But new technologies are coming along now where we're leveraging AI and other tools to really speed up this process. And that matters because it means you can react. You can react when the executives say, what would happen if we put this project in? We've got to do that one. Or what happens when you suddenly discover that project you thought was a 6-month project is actually a 2-year project? What happens, right? What do you do? How do you reschedule around that? And so the technology is really changing in this area quite quickly, to give you the power to make those decisions, to run those scenarios at a speed and a scale that nobody's ever been able to do before. So this makes capacity planning achievable and a lot less scary. And you know, one of the side effects, somebody asked the question earlier on, you know, capacity planning is okay, but how do you do the estimation in the first place, the project estimation? I don't know if one of you want to pick that one up, but if you can replan quickly because it doesn't matter how much effort you put into estimating your projects, your estimates are going to be wrong. Of course they are. They're estimates. So this ability to replan really quickly is I believe actually the key to solving the estimation problem, because it means that, you know, when you discover which direction your estimate is wrong, you can replan and react to that really quickly. And because they're not always longer than you think, sometimes they are shorter than you think. So I don't know, Joe, editor, do you want to pick any of that up? And
well, with respect to estimation, I think I could just echo to you and just words from Jack Dugal, who is also very well known in our project management and PMO world, is ringing in my head. You know that he always keeps saying that there is no such thing as a plan. We can have only planning in such a fast-paced environment when everything, you know, is changing so much. But it's important that planning needs to happen, and adjusting it, adapting to the current situation. It's always a way of working, of you know, always improving. So this works for me running the Bridge conference and the team, which is you know, always on the edge with critical priorities and things like that, and the same works with multiple projects I've been assigned to.
fantastic. So I've just in the chat, Lenora, there are a couple of videos that if anybody's interested in how some of that stuff can work, there's a couple of little videos that we've got that sort of describe how that AI stuff can work and why it matters, right? So it's about increasing the flow of projects and all that kind of good stuff. Thank you, Lenora. We're getting close to the end of our session. And I want to come back to an issue that I think it was Dora earlier on had, and that was on our list to talk about, which was how to get that organizational engagement, how to get your executives to buy in, how to get people to participate. Joe, do you want to go first, and then we'll jump over to editor.
Yeah, I think for me, the perspective on this, when we go out and engage new PMO leaders who are asking for our help, is we say the first place you have to look is not to your executives or your team members, is to yourself. What are you as a PMO leader going to do different because what you're doing today isn't working? And the mindset of we're going to improve our PMO and therefore the organization will get better is only going to take you so far. We have to recognize that we're business leaders inside an organization, and we have to go work with our peers at the leadership level to help them understand the benefits that project delivery can bring to the overall organization. So for me, the best way to be able to go do this change is understand how we have to change ourselves, understand our role in the organization, not our role in the PMO, understand how we're agents of change and what messaging we have to bring forward to our peers to get them to buy into what we're trying to accomplish, and understand that we're not trying to deliver projects, right? We're trying to deliver strategic initiatives for the organization. And having a complete mindset shift as a PMO leader is required for us to get out of the morass that we're stuck in of being a project management resource in a project management department trying to do project management things. The organization doesn't care about any of that stuff. They care about, did you get our initiative accomplished so that we get value? And if we don't understand that and we don't start adjusting as leaders, we're never going to get the progress that we need. So to me, that's the first thing we have to change, is the ducks, right? We have to be able to change ourselves in the way we think and how we act in order to get the results that we're looking for.
There we go. And a big piece in that is, and I feel like I say this on every single video and webinar and things that I'm on, so I apologize if you've heard it before, but here it goes, is that as an industry, we've got to stop talking about project stuff because the executives really don't care, right? So I was waving ducks around a second ago. So if if your projects are like ducks, right? Your executive team really doesn't care if you've got a boy duck or a girl duck. They just want the eggs, right? So they only care about the value that comes out of the project. So when you're trying to get their buy-in for something, don't go and talk to them about maturity models. They don't care. Go and say,
Right.
do you realize that our inability to deliver projects cost us $100 million of revenue last year, and that we failed to deliver our target of $30 million of cost savings because, okay, now you've got their attention because you're talking in their language, not in Project Ease, right? And that's one of the steps, and that's a step. That's not a step that anybody else needs to take. The people on this call right now can take that step right now. You can swear to yourself that you're never going to talk about ducks again, right? Talk about those projects and just talk about the eggs, talk about the value that the projects are delivering, that the PMO is delivering. And I promise you, it'll change the way execs that you engage. It'll change your relationship forever with the execs. Edita, same question to you. Would you have any advice for getting started and getting execs to start engaging around this stuff?
Yeah, I guess to get buy-in, I could echo with Joe, and I think just small thing to add, because if we do our homework and find the places where how to get the low-hanging fruits first, right? To bring value quickly, and then have a roadmap how we will evolve. So I think every organization leader, would like to get those first results and to see that that it's improving. So it's again all about value, but also we need to think which things will bring us short-term value and how we will get in a long term. So it also needs to be forward-looking thinking. And the first steps, don't start big, start small, I guess, with pilot projects, and then look how to scale when you want to implement, let's say, capacity planning techniques.
Yeah, and a lot of people,
matter.
that's super advice, Edita. Yeah, lots of the people that I see being really successful, not once, but people who do it again and again and again. Often they will do something like either start with little pilot projects, or they'll figure out what's really bugging the execs, and in a 90-day sprint, they'll fix it, whatever it is, fix the root cause of that problem. And then do another 90-day sprint and do another 90-day sprint. By the end of your third 90-day sprint, they're going to be really listening to you, right? Because you're actually solving problems. And so, don't. One of the things again, another little things, there is no such thing as a teleport system, right? If you want to get from this corner of the room to that corner of the room, I have to walk. I have to go one step at a time to walk from here over to there. I can't teleport. So don't try, because you'll fail.
Yes.
You'll get scrambled eggs.
You get scrambled eggs. Excellent, fantastic. Arunas has a question, which boils down to, I think, how do you estimate how many projects one PM can handle? How do you work out what the capacity is? Is there a simple answer?
Well, to me, it's organizational dependency there. There isn't a one size fits all really for any of this. So at your organization, it depends the size of the project. It depends the industry you're looking for. Depends
Complexity as well.
Data has come up, right? What you collected, how much work that a project manager can handle and have successful outcomes on projects. Estimates are estimates, going to be wrong, but if you use some data to try to help form those estimates, you can make them be less wrong in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. And data is a really good input into this process. Of course, not everybody has lots of data. So sometimes you just have to guess and do that pilot project and build some data, right? And figure it out. A couple more questions. Joe, do you have a written step-by-step process for or template or anything like that for capacity planning? I'm not sure it's that simple, is it?
No, I'd say to give a pitch for another conference, Laura Bernard's Impact Summit is coming up shortly. I'm one of the presenters in there, and I talk about OPD. So I'll give a pitch. Go register for Laura's conference and watch the OPD session, and you'll get each of the 5 steps of capability. I walk through each of them, so that might be I think that's better than a template. Templates to me are just tools. They're
No, I think we've lost Joe to the ghost in the hotel. Joe's actually on vacation at the minute in a haunted hotel. So I think the ghost has him. Never mind.
Back in vacation mode.
Yeah, he'll turn up again, I'm sure. So another quick question is, and this one's a tricky one generally, not just about capacity management, capacity planning, I should say. How do you effectively balance the long-term strategic goals of the PMO with the day-to-day constraints of actually just running the PMO? And I've got kind of one thought on that, which is that that would be a really good time when you're asking yourself that would be a really good time to reach out to somebody like Edita or to Joe, or Joe mentioned Laura Barnard, or if you're in Australia, Louise Gardner at Pledge, or I could give you a list of people around the world who can help you with that. It's really tough you absolutely can do it on your own. And Laura Barnard's program and her book, which I happen to have a copy of on my desk here, will help you on that journey. But it's actually quite difficult for a number of reasons for PMOs, especially if you've been in role for a while, to make that transition, in my view. So I would reach out for some help, because believe it or not, just having somebody with that fantastic Aristotelian look that Joe carries off so well, right? Come in and tell your executives that they've got a problem and they are the problem, right? He'll be able to say that and they will believe him. They won't believe you, right? So my advice would be get some help from outside if you can. And help from outside doesn't necessarily mean engage someone in a really big transformation project, right? It can just be do a quick maturity assessment, or just get some advice, just something that you can read back to the leadership team to get their attention. And I would start there. And then, then it's like any other plan, any other project. You just got to build a plan, make sure you got the capacity to deliver, because if you haven't, you'll fail, right? It's that simple. So if you haven't got the capacity, then maybe buy it in, rent it, something, or carve it out, but make sure you have executive support to do that, because they're still going to expect you to do the day job, even while you're transforming everything. Not the answer some of the answer you were looking for, I hope. Fantastic. Books. Any suggestions for books? Practical guides on the day in, day out work of the PMO. I'll start the bidding. I'm going to start the bidding with this. Oh, hang on, let me turn off the blur. Just give me a second. Right, get rid of the blur. There we go. All right. So if you could see this is the Impact Engine by Laura Barnard, which is coming out next month, I think. I've got quite a few copies in my garage outside here. It's a super book for any PMO to not just think about what you need to do, but how to manage transformation, how to manage that process. Edita, what's your current favorite? I just happen to have that one at hand, and it's a jolly good book.
Pillars of Organizational Excellence, also written by collaborating with Ricardo Villanas Vargas and Al Zaytun.
Yeah.
Where you can read a lot of practice-based stories and view, how we need to get better to improve and to stay on top of it.
Brilliant. Do you want to pop the details in the chat, editor, if you would? And Ricardo and Al are both just phenomenal people as well. They are so experienced. So that's a good book. Joe, anything from you? Any thoughts from you?
Yeah, I'll go a little oddball because that's just who I am, right? I'll say your resume is the book that gives you the best experience on how to be a PMO leader.
What's
you
it
can
called?
read about your resume, your own personal resume
yeah, okay.
of the work that you've accomplished, right? I love books. I think better books, leadership books as opposed to PM books. Every PMO is unique. What you're going to need to do to be successful in your organization is going to be unique. And I think experience is the best practice. So be your own author of your own book of how to build your PMO. And then I would recommend going out. There's a billion, of course, leadership books out there, but extreme ownership would be one that I think is something that we would all benefit from in the PMO world, by Jocko Willink, to go out there and understand that we own this and we're accountable for this. So we have to go make the change possible to go out there and do that. So leadership and your own personal experience, to me, are the two things you need to focus on.
Fantastic. And
we have a lot of great personalities in this industry. It's not about the personalities, right? It's about getting stuff done. And I want to, Jocko Willink, for those who don't know, is a Navy SEAL, a little abrasive for some people, but he's gotten stuff done. And I think that the strength of our industry needs more people like him, people who have executed out there. And it's not just about our industry, it's about being leaders and getting stuff done.
Brilliant. And I'm gonna pitch one other one, which is actually coming out again later on this year. So if you so lots of leadership books out there, but Heber Al-Shehi is launching a leadership book for PMOs. I've had sight of an advanced copy, and again, if you know Heber, which the three of us are lucky enough to know Heber, she's not only really experienced and great PMO leader, she's also just a truly beautiful human being, and very artistic. And thank you very much. This is fantastic. My son just brought me a cup of tea. It was meant to arrive an hour ago, but it did arrive. So thank you, James. So she's also
strategy and execution.
That's it. Oh, extreme accountability, Joe.
That's right.
So Heber's book's coming out, and it's a beautiful mix of a poetic worldview with a very pragmatic set of values and guidelines for PMO leaders specifically to get through their life. So I'd recommend that one as well. It's coming out later on. But and there's always the old actually the management of portfolios book has been around for a long time, and Steve Jenner's actually launching a new book again later on this year, which I've written a little bit in. But that's going to be an interesting one as well. That's an update, really, an updated version of the MOP, which has been out for well, I don't know, almost a couple of decades, in fact. Since he and Craig created that little beastie. So there's lots to get your teeth into. Hey, we turned it into a book club at the end there. That's kind of fun. We've not done that before. Thank you for that question. But we are actually just a little bit over time. So I really appreciate everybody coming to join. I want to thank Edita and Joe in particular for taking the time to join us.
Thanks for that.
And I'm assuming you guys are happy to talk to people if they have questions afterwards.
Absolutely.
And Editor, where do they sign up for the Bridge conference? Just Google Bridge PMO conference.
pmconference.org. You will find all the information, or reach out directly. I'm happy to collaborate.
Fantastic. And Joe, where are they going to find you? Where's everybody going to find you?
LinkedIn, great resource. PMO Squad, PMO leader. You know,
Yeah, Joe's
little
everywhere.
corner in our industry, you'll find it. Yeah.
Yeah, Joe's everywhere. He's all over the place. Fantastic. And of course you can connect with me on LinkedIn, Stuart Easton, or just jump into our website, and there's a load of free resources there that you can get hold of. We'll be sending out an email in the next couple of days. As soon as the recording is processed and edited a little bit, we will send that out. So watch for the email. In there, Lenora's on here, who owns that. So in there, we will try and scrape all of these links that Editor and Joe have shared with you and incorporate those into the follow-up email as well. So you'll have all those wonderful resources, and then links off to videos and tutorials and all kinds of things to help get you started. So thank you everybody for joining. Thank you for participating. It does make it more fun. Hopefully it's more fun for you as well. It's certainly more fun for us. So thank you very much.